Hey guys, you're watching Daniel and Gian talk, and today we are going to review the 2016 drama starring Amitabh Bachchan, Pink. Takes place in Delhi, right? Takes place in Delhi.
Yeah, New Delhi, I think.
So it's if you haven't seen the film, then maybe you shouldn't be watching this. Just kidding.
Actually, you probably shouldn't be watching.
Yeah, there's a lot of spoilers here,
It's
but
all spoilers.
all spoilers. Before we get started, you know the drill. If you're not subscribed, we are just inching closer and closer to that 10K mark we're looking for. But we have slowed down quite a bit, and I don't know what we did to upset you guys. But you're still watching and not subscribing. So, yeah, please do. Please subscribe. Help us out. It doesn't cost you a thing. And you will save the lives of millions of children. That being said, the film, let's talk about the film. The film is about three girls having an altercation with three boys, or three men, if you want.
There was 4.
No, the fourth guy wasn't there.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Something happens. We start the film with 2 cars speeding in a certain direction. One guy has been blown to the head. He's going to the hospital. The other girls are in a taxi freaking out. And then we learn that as a self-defense move, one of the girls attacks the guy who's going to the hospital. And a series of events happens. You know, the guys start harassing the girls, telling them, you know, trying to get revenge on the one girl who struck the guy. We find out his uncle is somebody powerful. We don't know exactly what he does, but he's someone important.
Political guy.
And they go to court, and the rest of the film pretty much takes place in the courthouse, and we see the trial go down. So, Daniel, what were your initial? How'd you feel about this movie?
So kind of conflicted. When I was first watching the film, I thought that my very first impression of it is like this film is just breakneck speed, like almost from start to finish, like to the point where until we kind of find out like who Bachchan's playing, like the lawyer guy, like but before that he's just like this weird creeper, right? We don't really know. That's how they set him up to be. But until that happens,
wearing the training mask, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Like could be any less creepy.
Was he using that as an air filter? Or was he?
That's what I thought, because he takes it off at the park.
You know,
he takes exactly, but he took it off at the park every time. But anyway,
for those of you who don't know, fighters, a lot of fighters and boxers and so on, just athletes in general, use those masks so that they don't get as much oxygen. Basically, makes them work harder in the gym because they can't breathe as easily, and that's pretty much the purpose of the mask, to build cardio. That's why a lot of fighters like it.
And maybe it's just what keeps him going. I don't know. But anyway, when you finally find out who he is and stuff, I feel like that's when the film kind of slows down a little bit.
Right.
But up until that point, it's almost so much intensity where it becomes a little overwhelming, and because you don't really know what's going on. Obviously, they wrote it that way. I get it. I understand. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying though, like it made me feel like, oh, where's the release coming? It's just. Yeah. But with that being said, certain moments definitely benefited from that. I mean, we can go really detailed into story. Like, there's a lot of questions. Like, this is my first Indian courtroom experience, so like, I don't know how accurate it is. I don't know how stylized and Hollywoodized it has been. That's like what we would call it.
Little shirts.
Oh, those.
I mean, yeah,
exactly. But you know, like, there was just certain aspects that were just weird to me. Like, there never seemed to be any scenes where they were discussing the case. Like no, not one scene did they ever like discuss the case.
Right. Like no in American courtroom dramas, usually they have like cutaways where they're in the hallway discussing the case
and really investigating and looking at clues and like just putting it all together, like hearing, because there were certain moments where literally like the very first few scenes in the courtroom were like, oh, I have no further questions for these witnesses, and it's like, wait, what? Why don't you have any?
Well, and that's addressed because the girls finally say, how come you're not asking any questions?
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying, like, just even seeing that without the explanation is weird, because that's just not how it works for, like, our courtroom dramas. Like, a movie I'm probably going to talk about a lot in this review.
Before we even go further with this, let's talk about the trailer. When we saw the trailer, I thought Amitabh Bachchan was the bad guy, or I didn't know. He
You
seemed
thought
like
he was like a creeper and like maybe a ringleader of the boys or something.
yeah, like he had something going on, and then he shows up in the courtroom too. So I was trying to because I knew I thought
And he
was
was yelling at the girls
yeah,
too.
I thought he was a prosecutor maybe, and then and then he was also creeping on him on the streets and stuff.
And
so
he,
that like the trailer did not make me expect this type of film at all. I didn't expect it to be a courthouse drama, like because pretty much the entire film up until like after the first 30 minutes or so, it basically the entire film takes place at the courthouse, So
so the reason why I brought up like how it was different and like took me out of it a little bit is like there were times where I felt like things were rushed, and like things weren't as impactful as they could have been.
Well, they were blowing through witnesses.
They were
left
just
and right.
blowing through everything, and so like I have a few qualms with the movie, but overall I did enjoy it. I just want to get that out of the way. Like I did like it, so whatever shortcomings, quote unquote, I feel like it has, it's meant in good spirits.
And this is the feel I kind of this movie almost felt like it should have been like a made for TV movie or even an episode of like Law and Order kind of stuff. Like it kind of had that pacing to it. Once I got to the courthouse, it kind of felt like that.
Well, the very first thing they're like, oh, opening arguments.
Yeah.
And then they give the opening arguments, and in America, they'd be like, okay, opening arguments are done. Let's set the trial for 3 months from now.
Right, exactly.
But in this movie, it was like, first witness, I call upon. I'm like, whoa, like that legitimately.
Well, that was definitely different. There's no arraignment process.
Nothing.
So the court system is completely different.
Again, assuming that this is accurate.
Yeah.
This could be super stylized, and it's completely fake, and I don't want to assume that this is real, which is let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
for sure.
let us know if that's how it works, because in the U.S., like, things are drawn out a lot longer than that. Like you get arraigned, which means they tell you what your charges are, and then you don't. I don't think you have to plead that time. I think the second time you come back, and then you plead guilty, no guilt, or not guilty, or no contest. You go back, and then
opening arguments,
and then basically what happens? No,
before that, you have to choose the jury.
Even before that, what a lot of times what happens is that the district attorney, who's the prosecutor, and the lawyer, the defense lawyer, start bargaining.
Oh yeah, to get a deal before they even go to trial.
Before they even go to trial. So it's a negotiation of like, okay, well if he pleads this charge, will you drop these other charges?
Right. If he's guilty to this, not guilty to that, we'll give you 5 years. He'll plead guilty
to this charge if you give him house arrest and
yeah, exactly.
Because a lot of it's a completely different story. I don't know anything about it. Why lawyers want that to happen? A lot of times it's because they know they don't have a very strong case.
They don't have to go to court.
So they just don't want to go to court. So that's them like bargaining. Okay,
or maybe it's a state case and they're not getting paid that much.
Yeah, so or there's bigger fish to fry, so they're just trying to get past it. So I found that interesting. Like right off the bat, I guess what this movie did for me more than anything else was kind of give me a picture. It was like a societal picture of how things kind of go down, for women in India when it comes to these things, and although there's similarities to how women get treated here, it's nowhere near like that.
And again, I shouldn't preface this, but like we're making the assumption that this is being accurate and not super dramatized, because it could be. Obviously, we understand it's a movie.
Well, if you look on Wikipedia, they show this to all the police stations, like hey,
get your shit together.
Get your shit together, like that.
I mean, that lady cop, I wanted to slap the shit out of her for like just lying through her teeth, like. So nonchalantly.
Well, it's so
funny too how all the cops are fucking fat.
Yeah.
Like, is that a problem in India? Like fat cops? Because we have fat cops here. That's what I'm saying. It might be a cop thing. Like you just got to be fat to be a cop. I don't know.
They don't do anything.
But well, it could be. But it like in Drishyam, the cops are fat. Like there's just, unless you're like a drug dealer on the side and killing people, like in Raman Raghav, then you're like fit. I guess it must be all the coke that you do. Like you just lose all that weight.
Just burning off the calories, man.
That's what it is. So I guess if you're a cop out there, well, I don't want to say do cocaine because then you become a killer and shit, like in Raman Raghav.
I mean, I didn't really have an issue with anything in the movie, honestly. I just thought once we got to the courtroom, I just kind of lost a little bit of my excitement. I think all that crazy pace at the beginning was actually was intriguing me, because I kind of wanted to see what happened. But the way the film started was interesting, where they were playing the credits, and then, they had some dialogue going over the credits. And then once the credits are done, bam, we jump into the cars.
There was dialogue over the credits?
Yeah, they were.
Oh, I skipped through it.
Yeah,
because you had texted me
at the beginning of the credits. They're that's them having drinks with the guys, and then one of the girls like, "Hey, it's late, let's get out of here." And then the guy's like, "Why?"
Okay. So I completely skipped that because you had texted me before I watched it, and you were like, "Dude, these credits take forever."
Oh yeah.
So
it
was literally 3.5 minutes, and so I just skipped through that until I saw the first image. So there was like a little dialogue that I missed.
Yeah. So when it was
it was
over black and they were doing the actual credits, because I wasn't talking about the credits. I was talking about the promotion.
No, I know what you're talking. But
videos.
yeah, I didn't know that. I just thought it was all together.
I felt like there were 7 promo videos.
There was a lot. But that's actually really interesting because that was one of my problems that actually ended up being a non-problem and then became a problem again at the very end of the movie, which was at first I had no idea what was going on. Yeah. And then I told myself, okay, shut that part of your brain off, go along for the ride. They obviously don't want you to know, so don't sit here and be like, I want to know what happened, whatever, right? And then as the story went on, and it was kind of like this Rashomon style story where you don't really know, like, are the girls telling the truth? Are the guys telling the truth? You assume the girls are telling the truth because...
But unlike Rashomon, they didn't do recreate.
Oh, yeah, no. I know exactly. No, I know, but I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
an unreliable narrator. That's what I'm saying. You assume based on how the boys are behaving that they're in the wrong, right? But you don't know for certain, and that's kind of what you kind of have to think in the back of your head. But then at the very end of the movie, they decide to show what happened. That shit pissed me off. Like, really, really pissed me off. And the reason why I feel that way is because at first, like I was saying, I had a problem with them not showing us the start of the movie, like what was going on. Obviously now, like I said, there's that dialogue I missed, but even still, that would still bother me that I didn't see what happened. But then, like I said, when I watched the movie, I'm like, oh, it's fine. I actually enjoyed the fact that we didn't see them being sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
We don't need it. We got it from the courtroom and all their interactions. Like, I respect this movie for not having to show this crap.
Right.
And then what does it do? On the credits, it shows it. It shows, like, the whole thing, and he hits him, like, why? You went through the whole fucking film.
You finished the movie. You didn't have to.
You didn't for what? It's not like I got excited, like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to see her get touched and so she can punch him with the... Why do we need to see it? It's not like it added something different.
Right.
Where it's like...
If you're going to show that stuff, you should have put it at the beginning of the movie. You should have started off the movie with that interaction.
Exactly. Otherwise, what's the point in holding it back if you're going to show it like... unless it was something like at the very end... They showed some teaser and it wasn't the actual girl who hit it. It was some other girl or something.
A twist, yeah.
And okay, fine, but that would be stupid.
The twist is they actually were hookers or something like that, you know.
Right? Okay, exactly. If that were the case, like, cool. At least it's something worthy. But then you go through the whole movie, you don't know about it, and then they want to throw it in there at the end. I didn't like that at all.
What was that courtroom movie with Richard Gere where the guy plays him?
Good Gentleman? No,
the guy plays him at the end of the movie. He lets him know that everything that he was accused of was true. He did. But no, it was something that I was thinking throughout the movie too. Like, why don't we see what happened? And you know, that would have been great if you did a Rashomon thing where you started showing everybody's point of view. You know, or maybe not. I don't know. You know, but showing at the end, it kind of ruined it. You know,
because we didn't need to see it.
No,
at that point, we already created it in our head.
Exactly,
we already created it in our head at that point.
But there's other things I really picked up on. I mean, I guess I learned a lot. Watching this, like just the big differences. Like if something like this happens here, the first thing they tell you to do is go to the cops immediately, because the longer you wait to tell the cops, the less likely you're going to get something accomplished.
Be able to catch them or whatever. But, and then there's other sides to it too, where people are afraid.
Yeah, absolutely.
And things like that.
But here it wasn't that they were afraid of.
The cops were even like trying to talk them out of it.
Exactly, like just people didn't want to. You know, and
like,
this without them
you're
even
just being
knowing.
A girl, like you don't even know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Like go home and think about this. Come back tomorrow.
Yeah, just a lack of disrespect for the women. And I mean, I guess
that was a lack too.
That was a key part of the film too, and that's actually what he got. I mean, other than pissing dude off, to have him like lose his shit on the stand. But you know, Amitabh's character was basically saying like, oh, so it's okay to assume these things because they're women.
Oh, his like five rules to like treating a woman or something like that.
Exactly.
Whatever that was called.
Being a woman or something. Yeah,
which is great. I mean, they were all great points. I don't know how much of a legal, like how much they hold up legally as an argument.
Well, I mean, he's in his opening statement, he says the prosecution doesn't have a leg to stand on, and while we're watching it, at least for me, from a Western perspective, the DA had a terrible case. Like everything he was
Terrible.
saying was like it was all like circumstantial.
I think you're right. I think it was a good display of like the total like differences in how women are treated. And again, we don't know what it is to actually live there.
Right.
It's probably not 100% like this all the time.
And I'm sure there's we're gonna get a ton of guys say no, that's exaggerated, things like that don't happen, and there's gonna be a few girls that say yes, that is how it goes down, and then you guys are gonna get into a big old flame
But see,
war
even the fighting
in our comments.
But what went down, like assuming what was told was accurate in the story, like the courtroom, like what actually occurred in that room and all that stuff, none of that to me is like, how do I say this? That probably happens every weekend at a fraternity, some fraternity in America. Maybe not to the point where someone's getting hit with a bottle, but like that type of, hey, let's go get some drinks, let's go back to my place, and then shit goes down one way or the other.
Right.
Some probably does end in physical violence, but I mean, what I'm saying is everything we've said right now is not to say that like we think Indians are like some animals.
No,
they just rape people.
These things happen.
It's just a human thing.
These things happen here in the U.S.
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, all over the world it happens. It's just and it shouldn't. It sucks, but
and that's what Bachchan's point is.
Yeah.
Like throughout his whole argument is like Bachchan, excuse me. That's his whole argument throughout the movie. Oh, they can't have a drink without you thinking it means they're whatever, they're trying to open their life. I forget what he said, something along those lines of like, oh, if you smile, that means you want someone, and like all of these, which seem absurd, but then when you break it down based on everything, like it's pretty accurate for what.
I love how everybody was paid off, and they all were like, yeah, these girls are sluts. That was everyone's testimony. Is like, these girls are sluts. They're very inappropriate girls.
Did they not like cross exchange information either? Like the two lawyers, like I felt like one lawyer was presenting something that like the other one never saw before, like all these things. Like they pulled random things, like, "Oh, this is your sister with the beer."
Yeah. Well, it was like some of the questions that the DA was asking, the prosecutor was asking.
Yeah, it was acceptable. Like, are you the Bachchan?
Oh, so
Bachchan asked, "Are you a
so you're the only
virgin?"
person that makes movies, makes money in your family, huh?
Yeah, that with the whole boyfriend thing too.
So maybe you need extra money to pay bills, right? So maybe you are a hooker, like
the conclusions he was drawing.
Yeah.
So are courts in India not by jury? It didn't look like it, right?
No,
it looked like it was judge, jury, and executioner.
It was just a judge, yeah. Well, the witness call up process was interesting too, because there was like no order. It was
all over the place.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he could.
Here's some hotel manager that we don't even know. And
just tell us if this is how the trial process goes, because here. The prosecutor comes out, presents his case. He calls up all his witnesses. The defense attorney gets a chance to cross-examine them, like ask them questions to basically tie them up.
Make sure they're not lying.
And then when it's the defense's turn, they get to call up their witnesses. This is when they do or they don't call up like the person they're defending. And then the prosecutor gets to cross-examine them. And then after that,
the jury deliberates.
Right. Well, no, they do their final statements.
Oh, and then the jury deliberates.
It's just their last sales pitch to the jury, and then the jury deliberates.
But we'll see. I don't even know fucking shit about the American court system. I don't even know who I am to talk.
Overruled.
Yeah, exactly.
Objection.
So I did have another question, not related to courts and stuff. Why are Northeastern girls harassed more? Because that was a line. They're like,
that was a thing.
Yeah. Now, so what does that mean? Are they more like exotic? Are they like sought after? Are they in limited quantities? Like, what is that? Like, what does it mean to be a Northeastern girl?
Was she poor? Is that?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, I thought all three girls are hot. So, but I don't know if.
Fun fact: the Northeastern girl, her character's name was Andrea Turiang. Her real name is Andrea Turiang.
She played herself.
She
maybe she played herself.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Casting.
Maybe. Well, maybe.
And that's the only movie.
Is this
she's
based?
been into.
This isn't based. Is this based on a true story?
Oh, I didn't look that up.
Because that might be it.
Yeah.
And then this is like her in the actual replaying the events, which would be pretty traumatizing, I would think.
And now it's everybody's favorite time, the cutaway section. And today, Daniel is going to talk a little bit about handheld photography, which was used quite a bit in Pink.
Hey guys, and welcome to this edition of The Cutaway, and on today's episode I'm going to be talking about the cinematography involved in Pink and why they specifically used handheld to go about how they shot the film. I'm also going to be talking about how this technique was used in other films. So the reason why handheld is used in filmmaking is in order to replicate the realistic tone that is often given in documentary film work. The reason why documentaries use handheld footage is because they don't necessarily always have the time to put a camera on a tripod to record an event. You know, if something is happening live and in the moment, you need to be able to take your camera and just start shooting immediately. And that's going to give you a handheld effect. During World War II, news reporters would often accompany soldiers into combat. They obviously couldn't carry a tripod with them, so they would just hold these film cameras on their shoulders and record them live. And this footage would then be sent home to families abroad and everything like that, so they can get updates, war reports. There was no news networks back in the 1940s, so this was the only way in which they could stay up to date with their fellow soldiers or their children, etc., etc. The Italians implemented this for their filmmaking, specifically in a movie called Rome Open City that came out in 1945. This is one of the early usages of handheld in cinema in order to create a bridge between film and realism. And this movement was called the Italian Neorealism movement, and they did a lot of these handheld movements. And of course, it was utilized many times after that, and they probably were not the first people to ever do handheld work, but it was very extensively used as a part of all the films that were done during this time. Now, the reason why you want to do this is it adds a layer of realism. This is why I brought up the documentaries that were filmed during World War II, because that's how they were actually being filmed. Real people were being filmed this way. So if you add that effect into filmmaking, it automatically adds this subconscious effect where you feel like what you're watching is actually real. Now, if this is overused, sometimes it can cause people headaches. Sometimes it's used improperly. Sometimes it's used because people think that it makes the process faster and it actually doesn't. But for the most part, it is used to intensify situations. In the movie Pink, this is exactly why it's used. Because at every single moment of this story, you want to feel engaged. You want to feel like it's a real story. You want to be with these characters at all times. And by using handheld, especially in this film, it adds a lot of subtext because it makes you feel a part of the experience. It also creates this uneasy feeling because the handheld is just never perfect. And because of that, as you're seeing right now on the screen, you can make inferences that these people's worlds are off kilter. They're not balanced. Something's not right. And this is a part of the auteur theory. A lot of directors will use handheld in order to evoke a feeling that the character's world is not 100% right. Something's just off. And handheld helps the viewers to be directed in this path. Most of the time, handheld footage is used for action scenes. You're seeing right now a clip of Bourne Ultimatum. And for a long time, the Bourne series was used as the butt end of a joke anytime you wanted to use handheld. Paul Greengrass was very notorious for using handheld in order to simulate reality. If you watch his films, United 93, the two Bourne films that he did, etc., they're all using this handheld approach. The Green Zone's another example of this, and he is doing it specifically to mimic the reality, as I mentioned, during World War II. Now, sometimes it gets overused. In this particular film, I liked it. It adds to the intensity. Right now, you're watching Matt Damon kick some ass, but because of the handheld effect, it intensifies the action. Without a shadow of a doubt, it just becomes more inherently interesting. But that's not to say that this is the only way to do it. Right now, you're looking at a scene from the 2003 film Old Boy, and in Old Boy, the film is just shot with the dolly shot, back and forth. And it's a pretty damn good action scene. But there absolutely is something missing from this scene. Now, there is a certain amount of spice that is missing from this Old Boy scene, in my opinion. A lot of people love this scene, and it is a great scene, especially because it is done in one take. But the reality is there is a certain element missing from this scene because you're never close to the actors. You're never in with them. You don't have this shaky camera movement. And that's up to the director to decide how he wants to do his movies, because clearly in Old Boy it works, and in Bourne Ultimatum it works. No one side is more right than the other. It is a complete artistic choice. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed my brief little cutaway today about handheld footage. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. If not, don't worry. We are definitely going to revisit this subject in further episodes because this was just the tip of the iceberg. But for now, let's get back to the movie review.
let's talk about the cast. I think this is our first time actually seeing Amitabh Bachchan on the big screen. We haven't seen any movies he was in before, and
Just trailers.
A lot of people in the comment section have said he's like the Al Pacino
Robert
of
De
Indian
Niro.
cinema.
His eyes are like
his crazy eyes,
mesmerizing.
Yeah.
Like you just like something.
He's got an intense gaze.
When he was being creepy, or like the movie was editing him to look creepy, his eyes made him look a million times more creepy.
Right.
Like just you immediately were like, holy shit, is this guy gonna like kill her
Yeah.
or like kidnap her, sell her organs? Like he could do anything. But what did you think of his performance for this film?
I thought it was good. I thought it was it had nice intensity to it. I was a little confused because one of the things is when we have these translations and stuff, like we don't pick up on everything that's really being said, and it took me a little bit to realize that he had like some sort of dementia or something was wrong with him. You
must have missed the headline. There was a headline that said it.
Oh,
it was really quick though.
When they Googled him.
It was really quick.
Yeah, I missed that. I had the baby. But see, I thought he was depressed because his wife was dying, and I thought that's what
Which he probably was too.
Yeah.
And he was also taking medication.
Right. And we didn't exactly know what the medication was for, but if it's dementia,
that was actually something that kind of disappointed me because at first I was kind of liking this side story. He goes and visits his wife, et cetera, but it really didn't lead to anything.
Yeah.
Like him having dementia, at first they played with it, like he was just staring blankly in the courtroom or whatever. But by the end, it was like he was perfect.
It was an element they completely forgot about, and then
Yeah.
we forget about the dementia stuff too. Like everything seems to be coming back to him. It was like
100%.
he was a little rusty, like he hadn't been in the court in a while. But
Exactly.
then once he started,
But they didn't show that either.
No.
It was just like
they didn't play up that aspect at all.
which Hollywood they easily would have done.
Yeah.
But it's weird for me for them to present that and then not follow through with it. They planted all this information to misdirect you, but then they never bring it up again.
Right.
It's like, so I was gonna mention this movie earlier and then you cut me off. But the movie that I like, my
Jesus Christ,
definitive
someone's in his feelings.
my definitive courtroom drama is My Cousin Vinny.
Okay.
And like,
that is a comedy, not a drama.
well, courtroom drama. Like, well, courtroom comedy, I guess. I don't know. Courtroom drama is like, that's the genre for courtroom films. I don't know. Court film is My Cousin Vinny. And, you get to retrace the whole story and you get to figure out why he draws the conclusions that he gets to. But what I enjoyed about it most was he wasn't the guy for the job, right? Like,
Yeah.
he was a lawyer, but he wasn't the one that you thought was going to actually do it. And so, and the reason why I bring this up is when you're watching him like have the dementia in the very beginning, I'm like, oh, he's a great lawyer, but he's gonna fuck up because of this. So I'm thinking of like, I'm adding my own stakes to it when they're not really there anymore.
Right.
And I didn't like that. That's why I brought it up. And then My Cousin Vinny, he's like incompetent but not like stupid. He's just not as experienced as everyone else is.
Right.
But that's always a factor throughout the entire movie. It never disappears that he's a buffoon, even when he finally, spoiler, wins the case at the end, pieces it all together with his wife.
He purposely gets in contempt of court because he can actually sleep in jail.
Right. It's a great movie.
Versus the house at the
with the train.
Yeah.
It's literally one of the best movies. I think it's Joe Pesci's best performance, even better than
than
Goodfellas.
Home Alone. Fucking
yeah. Two Utes with
Two Utes.
Herman Munster.
What?
What's his name? Herman Munster's name?
The actor.
Yeah. I only know him as
I know
Herman
him
Munster.
from the Munsters and from that movie.
And
I don't know
and that's
anything
it.
else,
And he's just like 7'3",
yeah.
super tall giant. Anyway, we're totally getting off track here.
But if you haven't seen My Cousin Vinny, it's definitely one to check out. It came out in the early '90s, but
it's a great
hilarious,
American
and
film.
it's got Karate Kid in it, by the way.
Oh yeah, he's older. He's older. He's
well, he looks exactly the same, but
no, I know, but he's older.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. I forgot. Real quick, I'm gonna end on this with in terms of like anything I have to say, and I mentioned it earlier very briefly, but the editing was really weird and forced. I almost don't know how much of it was poor editing or like lack of budget or just a weird directorial vision. And what I mean by that is there were a lot of moments that weren't allowed to sink in, like in the courtroom, where like they'd cut to reaction and then cut right back.
Yeah.
And they were doing like what we would call MTV editing, which is like you're cutting every 3 to 5 seconds, cut, and it's like you're just constantly being inundated with information, right?
I mean, it could be because this was marketed towards a younger audience.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, and that's why I said MTV editing. But that is exactly what I was thinking. It's just, to me, it devalued certain moments that needed to be, more drawn out. And let's stay with the wife. Like, they completely, when the wife dies at the end, they don't even care to like show Bachchan like asking for a day off or something, to like mourn his wife. Like, it was very weird. That's how breakneck speed it was. And then they had, last thing is, transitions were weird. They would fade down and fade up really quick.
Right.
They did it a few times. Like, to me, I've honestly genuinely never seen that in a movie before, other than in student films.
I just think
those transitions.
there was a lot of stuff. Like, I mean, the stakes just didn't ever feel very high.
Because they never go over the case. You don't know like what their
and
story
even
is.
Before the case starts, like, we see, okay, the one girl goes to jail, but then she gets bailed out in a couple days. The girl loses her job.
You don't even see her in jail. You just hear her say like, "It smells like piss in here."
No, you saw her in jail. She was like
for
coughing.
one or two shots,
know.
like, but not actually like
right.
being with her. Like,
I mean, it doesn't explain her health starting to fail either. I don't know if it was a stress thing. But then the other girl with the short hair, Andrea, like, nothing really happens to her. She's just kind of there.
Yeah, no real stakes, and then
and it started off, and the sad thing is, it started off pretty good. Like, they're harassing people, they're harassing the landlord. They knocked him off his motorcycle. They kidnapped the girl, and I don't know what they do to her. They don't show.
They
exactly.
don't. It was kind of like insinuated that they like
he like
took pictures of her
or fingered her or something.
I don't know, but it was
she took the rape shower when she got home,
and she definitely that was a very strong moment and one of the few moments that actually did take its time.
Yeah.
And
it was creepy, and it
was awkward. It felt gross. You wanted to take a shower too.
Right.
Like, I completely understand it.
So there was stuff like that was so good, and I was like, where's this going? And then and it just kind of.
This is the first time you're gonna hear me say this, but I think this movie should have been 3 hours and 10 minutes and not 2 hours and 10 minutes, because I think. They made it.
You could have done a lot more stuff.
This could have been a TV
show.
Extra
30 minutes.
This could have been a TV show.
Which is what I said at the beginning. It kind of felt like a made-for-TV.
Well, what I'm saying, it could have been like a 6-part Netflix series.
Right.
Like, maybe they might readapt it at one point. I don't know. Who knows with TV nowadays? But overall, let's go into the ratings.
As a film itself, for me, I'll probably give it like a 4 or 5 out of 10. I didn't hate it, but it was definitely not my favorite.
But what about its message and like its
the
theme
message? I think the
takeaway.
I think the message itself was pretty strong, and I think that it was able to deliver that more than anything. But you could have also done that in a 30-minute BuzzFeed or something video like that.
Yeah, or a documentary.
It almost like Rape, It's Your Fault. The AIB video. Is it AIB or
AIB?
So the AIB Rape It's Your Fault video, like, I think it kind of nails
in 3 minutes.
In 3 minutes, and it's
same points.
Similar thing, Obviously, this is more graphic and not.
And it's intense, and there's a reason for it. We're not saying there's no reason for this to exist. For me, my rating as a film, I'm like a 5 to 6. So I'll just say 5.5. But message wise, it's like an 8 for sure. Like at a scale of 1 to 10. So like together, the movie's like a 6, 6.5. Like it's not a bad movie at all. It's just. Not the best movie ever, which is okay. I have one parting question, and you can rein in on this. I'm not going to give my opinion. My question is, do you feel like white savior exists in Indian films, and that's the role that Bachchan played in this film? Because I will say that they could have, if they really wanted to make a progressive point, they could have hired a female lawyer and wrote that into the story and have a woman represent her. And maybe, that would have been even more strong.
I don't.
Why did they need this old has-been who's never really given any backstory and is like very conveniently placed and watching this stuff?
I mean, I think if we look at the production, like the production value of this film, it was they needed that big name. Because if you look up IMDb, none of these girls are really that big. I think what's the girl that assaulted the guy? I think she's in Jadwa 2, and the other girls haven't really done You know?
Right.
I mean, maybe they haven't. Maybe they have, but from what IMDb, I didn't really see any names that stood out that I recognize from things that we've done or that people have even recommended. So, I mean, they needed that him. So that's part of it. But
do you think it takes away from the story by having him be there?
No. I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, I think that's a bigger problem here. Like that, you could make the argument here for sure. But
if it was Robert Downey Jr.
I mean, it's not a white savior because obviously he's Indian too. It's not the same. It doesn't have the same racial,
Well, maybe
components.
that's a bad term, but
I see.
maybe
I understand
like
what
as
you're
a
saying.
male, male savior.
Yeah, like why does the man have to come in and save everything? And I maybe.
Did it bother you guys? That's what I want to know. That's
it didn't
my
really bother
question.
me. I didn't even think about it because
I did.
I was more
when the movie
focused
ended,
more on
I
this
thought
is the
about
first
it.
time we've seen this guy like in a movie, and I was focusing on his performance.
Oh, absolutely.
So.
But I just thought about it after.
Yeah.
Like it's such a pro-feminine film,
Right?
That it's like go further. Like have a female lawyer, have her be no experience and down and out. Like that's a story in and of itself, and
Right.
like she has to struggle to put this case together, and then they finally all win together, and they maybe it was too much. I don't know, but that
she's a single mom, and
it could be. I mean, I'm just saying you could
her
really.
ex-husband's a deadbeat who's not paying child support, and she's got her mom is taking care of her
I didn't know that
kid.
it was so weird for women to live alone.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
I didn't even think about that till right now. But they like when they're all living alone. I'm like, it feels weird. They were setting it up, feeling because like everyone's looking at them.
Yeah.
They were always showing people watching them, and I'm like, what the fuck?
I mean,
Is that
at
not
first
normal?
I assumed they were like college students, and then, then we find out that they're not college students. But I didn't even think twice about it. But now, in retrospect, yeah, like I remember that happening, and that's just
it's different.
It's different for sure. It's not an issue here. So I mean, there was definitely things that I liked about it. There was definitely the message for me that was the strongest point of the film. The film itself was it was a little mediocre. Definitely not my favorite Indian film. But either way,
it wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't terrible, and we appreciate the recommendation, letting us know about this because I personally, and I'm sure Daniel did, learned a lot about society in India. I mean,
or at least another perspective.
Another perspective on society in India that's definitely much, much different than what people experience.
It allows us
here
to
in the United
talk
States.
more and to have more, opinions
just broadens our
future.
horizon and kind of lets us, it's our way of doing research.
Absolutely, through movies.
Yeah.
Up next is PK.
Yeah, gonna do No, we're not doing PK next.
Oh, what are we doing
We're
next?
doing Go Gone.
Oh yeah,
We said it like 3 times.
that's right.
Up next is Go Gone. Excited about that one to
watch a zombie movie.
Daniel keeps saying zombie. People keep getting offended by him saying zombie.
Not everybody
everybody. Other people are ignoring it, but
you know what? That's fine. It's an Indian reference, and if you get it, great. If you don't, too bad. It's not like I'm being offensive. It's from the movie Newton. If you haven't seen it, a guy calls the zombies zombies.
But
and then they correct it.
It's not even that funny, and Daniel keeps saying
it's
it.
hilarious.
It's
zombies.
It was funny in Newton. It's not funny anymore. Anyways, that's gonna do
I'm
it
gonna get
for
a shirt
us,
that
guys.
says Zombie Slayer on it. I'm gonna do that.
That's gonna do it for us, folks. Thanks for watching. You know the drill. Smash that like button. Hit the subscribe, ring the bell, leave comments, let us know what you think, and be on the lookout for some more reviews. We're going to try to do reviews every week from now on. We're still going to be doing reaction videos, but thanks for watching. We really appreciate you guys. We really love you guys, and we will see you next time.